What's up everybody, David Rodriguez here, and in today's video I'm going to talk about something that seems to I see pop up on Facebook in the tricking group from time to time, is motivation for tricking by yourself. And it's not a huge complex question, hopefully this video won't take very long, but I figured that as a solo tricker myself for the most part, sometimes I really only get to see trick with other people when I either go to gatherings or if I can make a weekend session with some of my homies. That's typically the only time I can actually trick with somebody else. And so I think I would just like to offer my perspective and three big things, not in any specific order, that really help keep me motivated to continue tricking. So again, these are no particular order, but when it comes to just tricking by myself and kind of having motivations, or what keeps me going, is one, I tell this with all of my students and all my clients that I teach, is that one, you should establish a goal, right? It should be measurable, attainable, realistic. You probably heard that in school when it came to whenever you did stuff in high school or college or whatever. So for example, for me, right, my end goal is to have my own tricking gym. And so in order for me to do that, I need to try and be the best at tricking that I can be, so that way I can provide that knowledge for my students, and then I'm not just stuck in at a lower level, unsure of how to teach my students beyond the level, or once they get to my level, that I can no longer assist them. And I like it because it's always, for a person, it's something to reflect on. You can always look back and look at your goal and say, hey, are the steps that I'm taking, are they getting me towards my goal? Or sometimes the goals might change as you get better. Maybe you just become a superstar at tricking, and now you no longer want to own a gym. Now you want to be an athlete, for a pro athlete. And so you can always look back on the goal, as long as it's measurable, attainable, realistic. Boom. This is something that kind of keeps you as a light at the end of the tunnel in the nebulous world of tricking. And this especially, I feel, is definitely about the journey and the process of getting towards your goal. So, one, establish a goal. Number two, and excuse my grammar and excuse my writing and spelling, but I think another thing that helped me realize that's always kept me motivated as far as being a solo tricker is that I realized that I have to trick for myself, or trick for yourself, right? So what it means is that if you are tricking because you're wanting people to watch you, or there's always a guy at the session who's will only really throw tricks if the homies are watching him, and it's come on dude, just train, just practice. All right, and I can be guilty of that too sometimes whenever I am training with other people. But you're gonna have to realize, especially if you're always by yourself, that nobody cares about your tricking more than you. Nobody cares about how well you're doing or about your style more than yourself, okay? Because, yes, you will have people who encourage you, but no one's going to get you to go out there, obviously, except you. So you better light some kind of fire underneath you and accept that I am doing this for myself. Now, obviously, there's Instagram, and if you're doing things off Instagram, then yay, fine, good for you. But for the average solo tricker, that is probably not the case, right? You are going to have to fight that battle with yourself and realize that it's not that bad to just trick for yourself, record for yourself, understand what you're doing wrong. And teaching yourself is much harder, but there are resources for that, obviously, right? Koja's Trick Lab, Mastering Tricking. You can even just DM some of the athletes. All the athletes are very nice, and I'm sure that they would be more than willing to help you, especially if you've interacted with them before at a gathering. Now, ironically, on the flip side of that, nobody cares about your tricking except you, and you can't care about naysayers. So you can't care about the people. So if you go to a gym and you're the only tricker there, you can't care if you're the only tricker there. So if people are doing cheer, people are doing gymnastics, people are doing some other things, and obviously, yes, they'll kind of look at you a little bit goofy, right? I've had that happen, and especially, or if you trick, or if you train at where you work, and it's like a traditional gymnastics or tumbling thing, and like you kind of have the parents watching you, and you know that the parents are kind of eyeing you from the sidelines, and they're just kind of like, what the heck is that guy doing, and blah blah blah. You can't care. All right, you just got to go and do it, because again, nobody cares except you, and nobody's gonna go out and get the work done except you. So trick for yourself. My last point that I have that again helps me continue to be a solo tricker is you have to ask yourself one question, which I guess can follow within tricking for yourself and our goal, but it is, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want your goals? How bad are you trying to trick for yourself? How much do you, what is the thing? I don't know, it's an intangible idea, thought. I think of it like this: how bad do you want it? And this has to happen in spite of motivation. So this is the question you need to ask yourself whenever you're like, hey guys, I don't have any motivation because I'm a solo tricker and I see all these cool tricking videos of people just being a community and this and that and blah blah blah. And well, this is the question you have to ask yourself whenever you're feeling that way and you're like, I don't want to trick anymore because I just don't feel it. How bad do you want it? How bad in this, again, do you just want to trick? Do you want to have fun? Do you want to be the best? Are you doing it for performance? Whatever. You can think of this, how this question has to sustain the fuel that's keeping you going, right? So I'll probably make a quick analogy after this, but and another thing that I think that people can realize or need to realize is that either answer is fine. It is okay. So even if, how bad do you want it? And if the answer is not that bad, hey, that's okay. That's like a good step in towards self-growth and direction and understanding that maybe your priorities have changed or maybe they need to change. Maybe something isn't working out very well, right? Because if you keep beating your head against this wall and nothing's good's coming out of it and you really don't even want it that bad, you're just going to keep beating, you're just going to keep making yourself miserable. Once you can understand that, hey, I really don't want this that bad, and it's something that I tried, I didn't like it, it's fine, move on, right? Good for you. Step in the right direction. Now, if you ask yourself when you have that same thing, and how bad do you want, and you say real bad, well, guess what? You better go out there and start training and start using that as this is now your motivation of how bad do you want it. Anybody can train when they're motivated. You just have to keep asking yourself, how bad do you want it? So, here it is. The fires of solo tricking. I put in just this goofy analogy. I'm sure you can mix and match any things that you want, but I like to think of it like this. The structure in the frame that keeps the fire contained so it doesn't go wild or go crazy is your goal. Your goal, right, is going to center you on your focus, is going to keep that fire contained, is going to tell you this is where we need to go, and so that way if there's nothing containing it, then it just goes wild. There's nothing there that really kind of gets you going. It's just like you're just floating in the wind, you're just doing whatever you want. And then at some point, it'll just burn out because you just don't have a goal, you don't really know what you're doing, and you're just kind of going around, blah, blah, blah. At least that's how it feels for me. And now, fuel. Again, how bad do you want it, right? The sticks, the leaves, whatever. If you're not adding any more fuel to that fire, guess what? That fire is still just going to go out too. You have to ask yourself, how bad do you want it? Even when those embers are burning, it's just embers, just a tiny little flame. You make the decision. How bad do you want it? Do you put another stick, another log in there, or do you just let it die out? Lastly, the fire itself. Tricking, I like to think of it as tricking for yourself, right? You keep that fire, the fire inside you. Tricking for yourself is what keeps everything going. But if you don't have that fire and you don't want to trick for yourself, or tricking for yourself feels hard or feels weird, anything like that, and you just kind of let it die just because you only go to a session if there's only people there and you're not tricking for yourself, it's going to be gone too, right? So if you have any more components or even just other things that help you trick by yourself, please let me know. I'm sure other people would like to know. I always see it every so often, at least once a month. I see it on the Tricking Facebook page about How can I trick? I'm just a solo tricker. I don't know what I'm doing by myself. I hope that these 3 things can maybe help put some things into perspective for you. Like, subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. My name is David Rodriguez, Stomped Tricking. Please come to DF Dub Tricking Gathering July 25th and 26th of this year. Hope y'all have a great week. I will see you on the next video. Peace.